Hey everyone, and welcome back. You ready to dive into a topic that's been getting a ton of attention lately?
Absolutely.
Prolonged fasting, right? That's what we're unpacking today.
That's it.
Going without food for, well, more than a day.
More than a day.
We're going to be using excerpts from The Comprehensive Guide to Prolonged Fasting.
Oh, great book.
It's by Habeeb Hussain, and it's packed with info, like
Everything, yeah.
history, the science behind it all, practical tips, you name it.
Practical tips, yeah.
Even breaks down what happens hour by hour, like what your body's doing
Hour by hour, yeah.
when you're fasting.
Pretty cool.
I mean, imagine tapping into some hidden energy source, hitting a reset button on your cells.
That's a powerful idea.
Yeah, and that's some of what prolonged fasting claims to offer, right?
Definitely. And what's really fascinating is, prolonged fasting. It's not some new fad diet. It's not some biohack.
Right, it's been around.
It's woven into history, human history, for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's like ancient wisdom, tested and refined over centuries that we're kind of rediscovering now.
That's a great way to put it.
You're right. And it's more than just skipping a meal or two.
Right.
It's going beyond 24 hours without food.
Yep.
Sometimes even, wow, multiple days.
Multiple days, yeah.
Intense. But, I mean, it really pushes your body into a different state
Oh, yeah.
than, say, intermittent fasting.
Right.
It's like intermittent fasting's, I don't know, supercharged Big Brother or something.
Exactly. Like, one of the biggest things is how your body starts burning fat for fuel.
Yeah. Okay, so instead of those readily available carbs we usually use,
Yep.
our bodies, they start tapping into, like, stored fat.
That's it. You're not just dipping your toes into fat burning.
Right.
You're diving headfirst into it.
Wow. So it's been around for centuries.
Centuries, yeah.
I mean, major religions, cultures all over the world.
Yeah, I think Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism,
Hmm.
they all have fasting for various reasons.
For spiritual reasons, health
It's
reasons, yeah.
Social purposes even.
So it's not this new trendy thing. It's like this shared human experience
Yeah.
across time and cultures. That's pretty cool.
It is.
So let's get into the science behind it all. How does this actually work, inside our bodies?
Okay, so think of it this way. When you eat, right, your body mainly uses glucose for energy.
Okay, that's the usual fuel.
Right. But when you go on a prolonged fast, your glucose stores, they run out.
Makes sense.
And your body's like, all right, time for plan B.
Okay, so what's plan B?
Plan B is fat. Your body starts tapping into those fat stores.
Like a backup generator powered by fat.
Exactly. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. All right, so how does that fat actually get used as energy?
That's where ketones come in. Your liver gets to work and converts fat into these molecules called ketones.
Ketones, right.
And those ketones, they can be a super efficient fuel source,
Okay.
especially for your brain.
So not only are we using this backup energy source,
Right.
our brains might actually function better too.
Exactly. They're running on premium fuel now.
Wow. Okay, I'm intrigued. So what else happens in our bodies during a prolonged fast?
Well, aside from the whole fuel switch, there's also a hormonal roller coaster going on.
Whoa, a hormonal roller coaster.
Yeah, things like insulin, glucagon, growth hormone, they all get affected.
Okay, so break it down for me. What does that mean for my body?
All right, so growth hormone, for one, it gets a boost. And that's not just good for burning fat.
Oh.
It helps with muscle growth, too. So you're not just getting leaner, you're getting stronger.
Okay, that's a win-win.
Right. And insulin, it takes a dip, which helps break down fat more efficiently.
Got it.
And then glucagon, it rises, which keeps your blood sugar balanced.
So no energy crashes.
Exactly. It's like a perfectly choreographed dance of hormones.
Each hormone playing its part to keep things running smoothly.
That's a great way to put it.
Amazing. But you mentioned deeper changes. What about at the cellular level?
All right, now this is where it gets really interesting. Prolonged fasting, it triggers something called autophagy.
Autophagy, right? I've heard that term.
It's like your body's spring cleaning system.
Okay, so it's getting rid of stuff.
Damaged cells, proteins, all that gets cleared out makes room for new, healthy ones.
Wow, so it's like hitting the refresh button on my cells.
Exactly. A cellular renewal from the inside out.
That is mind-blowing. So it's more than just a diet. It's like a whole-body tune-up.
That's a great way to think about it.
Okay, so what does this all mean for me? What kind of tangible benefits are we talking about?
Well, one of the most well-known, and probably why a lot of people try it, is weight management.
Yeah, makes sense. You're burning fat for fuel.
Exactly. Prolonged fasting pushes your body to use those fat reserves. so you naturally lose body fat.
Okay, so it's not just about fitting into those old genes.
It's much more than that.
There's more.
Absolutely. It's a boost to your whole metabolic health, things like insulin sensitivity, blood sugar balance.
Oh, wow. So lower risk of type 2 diabetes.
Exactly. It's like a metabolic upgrade.
Okay, weight management, metabolic health, those are big ones. But you said a buffet of benefits, right? What else is there?
Well, remember autophagy, that cellular cleanup. It's been linked to slowing down aging and might even help protect against some chronic diseases.
Wait, slow down aging. Okay, that's a game changer.
Right. And remember those ketones. Not just good for muscles, but for your brain, too.
Oh, right, right.
They can lead to better focus, sharper thinking, overall better cognitive performance.
So it's like upgrading my brain power.
Exactly.
This is getting more interesting by the minute. But let's be real, prolonged fasting sounds intense.
No.
There have to be some downsides, right?
Of course. It's not a walk in the park. The book is upfront about that.
Okay, so what should I be aware of?
One thing is the risk of nutrient deficiencies.
Yeah.
Your body is amazing, but it still needs those vitamins and minerals.
Right, so even though I'm fasting, I need to make sure I'm getting the right nutrients.
Exactly, especially before and after the fast. That's crucial.
Okay, so it's not just about the fasting period itself, it's the prep and the recovery that matters too.
Think of it like training for a marathon. You wouldn't just show up on race day without preparing.
That's a great analogy. So what does that prep look like?
Well, first you gradually adjust your diet, cut back on processed foods, sugary drinks, all that stuff.
So fueling my body with good stuff before the maintenance period, so to speak.
Exactly. And it's not about cutting out carbs entirely.
Wait, I thought carbs were the enemy, especially before I fast.
It's about the right kind of carbs. The complex carbs from whole grains, legumes, starchy veggies.
Okay, those provide longer lasting energy.
And they help replenish your glycogen stores, which makes the transition smoother.
So choosing wisely, not banishing carbs altogether.
Exactly. And hydration is super important too. You lose water when you fast, along with electrolytes.
So drinking plenty of water beforehand helps.
Absolutely. Aim for at least 2 to 3 liters a day, but adjust based on your needs.
Right. Everyone's different. What about those electrolytes you mentioned?
Those are key. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, they all play a role in how your muscles work, nerves, everything.
And we lose them when we fast.
Yeah, so replenishing them is crucial. We'll talk more about that later.
Yeah.
But it's something to start thinking about now.
Got it. So checking water alone isn't enough. I could get those electrolytes in too.
Right, you can add electrolytes to your water or have some bone broth. It's a great source.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. No, let's talk about that last meal before the fast begins.
The final feast.
Is there anything specific I should be eating?
Think of it like a care package for your body. You want a good balance of those macronutrients. Lean protein.
Like chicken, fish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Complex carbs like brown rice or quinoa, and some healthy fats like avocado or nuts.
So it's like a celebratory meal, but with a focus on giving my body what it needs.
Exactly. And you want to have this meal 2-3 hours before you start fasting. Give it time to digest.
Makes sense. Okay, so I've prepped my diet, I'm mentally ready, hydrated, and had my last nutrient-packed meal. What's it actually like to start a prolonged fast?
Well, unsurprisingly, one of the first things you'll notice is hunger.
Yeah, no surprise there. But how bad is it really?
Your body's used to regular food, so those hunger pangs are normal, but there are ways to manage them.
Okay, so I'm not just going to be miserable the whole time.
Not necessarily. And your energy might fluctuate a bit too as your body adapts to using fat.
So some ups and downs are to be expected.
Yeah, you might feel a bit tired, especially the first couple of days, but it's usually temporary.
So it's not like I'll be dragging myself around for days on end.
Many people actually report feeling more energized once their body adjusts.
Really? That's encouraging.
And remember, there are the things you can do to help, like staying hydrated, getting enough rest.
Okay, basic self-care stuff.
Exactly. And some light activity can help too.
Light activity, like what?
Not intense workouts, but gentle movement, like walking, yoga, even light housework.
Oh, okay, so getting my blood flowing a bit.
Yep, helps boost energy and circulation.
All right, so I need to be prepared for some hunger, some potential energy dips. But what about, like, the mental and emotional side of things?
Yeah, that's important too. Fasting can definitely affect your mood. It's not uncommon to feel some emotional ups and downs.
So mood swings, irritability, that kind of thing.
It's possible, especially as your body adapts. But having strategies to manage those shifts can make a big difference.
Okay, so it's about being prepared and having a plan.
Exactly. And we'll talk more about those strategies in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, sounds good. I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about that. But for now, I think we've covered a lot of ground.
We've laid a good foundation.
Right, we've talked about the basics of prolonged fasting, the history,
The science, the potential benefit.
and yeah, some of the challenges too.
It's important to be aware of both sides of the coin.
Exactly. And I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear more about how to manage those challenges.
We'll definitely dive into all of that.
Yeah, plus all the exciting stuff about electrolytes and the hour-by-hour breakdown.
We'll get into all the nitty-gritty details.
So stay tuned, everyone. We'll be back soon with part 2 of our deep dive into prolonged fasting.
Can't wait. And it's a complex system,
Yeah.
influenced by so many things.
Yeah, like our diet, lifestyle, all of that.
Right. And even, as we're learning, our fasting practices.
So how does prolonged fasting actually affect that system, the immune system?
Well, the research is still pretty new, but there's some interesting stuff coming out.
Okay, like what?
Some findings suggest it might actually boost your immune system.
Boost it? Really?
Yeah. One way it does that is through its impact on stem cells.
Stem cells.
Those are like the blank slates that can turn into all sorts of cells in your body,
Right, I've heard about them, but
including immune cells, the ones that fight off infections.
so they're like the building blocks for a strong immune system.
Exactly. And prolonged fasting seems to stimulate the production of new stem cells.
So it's like replenishing my immune system.
Yeah, giving it a fresh supply of those fighter cells.
That's pretty cool. So it's like a reboot for my immune system, keeping it strong and ready to go.
You got it. And we can't forget about inflammation.
Right. Right, we talked about that.
Chronic inflammation, it actually weakens your immune system.
Makes you more susceptible to getting sick.
Exactly. And prolonged fasting has been shown to reduce those inflammatory markers.
Oh, it's like a double whammy. Boosting the good stuff and reducing the bad stuff.
It's all about creating that ideal environment for your immune system to thrive.
This is amazing. It really does seem like prolonged fasting is about way more than just weight loss.
Absolutely. It's a holistic approach to health working on so many levels.
You know, one thing that stuck with me from the book was the emphasis on the pre-fast meal.
Oh yeah, it's not just about the fasting itself.
Right. It's about setting the stage, preparing your body.
They actually call it designing the perfect pre-fast meal.
Interesting. So what goes into this perfect meal? What are the key things to keep in mind?
The most important thing is that balance of macronutrients, protein, carbs, and healthy fats.
Okay, but why is that balance so important?
Well, protein, it keeps you feeling full, which is key when you're about to fast, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
And it helps protect your muscles, which is something you want to avoid losing.
Right, we talked about that risk earlier.
Exactly. Then, with carbs, it's not about cutting them out entirely.
Wait, carbs? I thought they were off limits before a fast.
It's about choosing the right kind. The complex carbs from whole grains, legumes, starchy veggies.
Oh, okay, so those slower digesting ones?
They give you sustained energy and help replenish your glycogen stores, make the transition into fasting easier.
So it's about fueling my body with the right kind of energy before I switch to fat-burning mode.
You got it. And then those healthy fats, they're important for keeping you feeling full too.
They help slow down digestion, right?
Exactly. So it's all about creating this balanced meal that sets you up for success.
Makes sense. I noticed the book specifically mentioned low glycemic index foods.
Oh yeah, those are ideal.
Can you remind me why those are so good for a pre-fast meal?
Well, low GI foods, they're digested slower, which means your blood sugar stays more stable.
So no crazy spikes and crashes.
Exactly. And that helps you avoid those intense cravings that can derail your fast.
So it's like setting myself up for a smoother, more comfortable experience.
Exactly, both physically and mentally.
And what about hydration? The book mentioned that too in the context of the pre-fast meal.
Hydration is always important, but especially before a fast meal. Dehydration can make those first few hours or days way tougher.
Right, because it can cause fatigue, headaches, all that fun stuff.
Yep. So making sure you're well hydrated beforehand can really help.
Okay, so I need to be sipping on that water consistently.
And it's not just about during the pre-fast meal, it's about the days leading up to it too.
Got it. So staying hydrated is like a constant priority.
Exactly. Now let's talk about some specific food recommendations. What should actually be on that pre-fast plate?
Yeah, give me some ideas.
For protein, lean meats are great, like chicken breast, turkey, fish.
Okay, those are classics. What about plant-based options?
Tofu, tempeh, lentils, those are all good sources of protein too.
Got it. And for complex carbs?
Whole grains are your best bet, so things like brown rice, quinoa, oats.
Okay, those are easy enough to incorporate.
And you can add starchy vegetables too, like sweet potatoes or butternut squash.
Okay, good to know. So lots of lean protein, complex carbs. What about those healthy fats?
Avocados are a great choice, along
Oh,
with nuts, seeds, and things like olive oil.
makes sense. Lots of good options there. So I've got my pre-fast meal planned out. What about supplements? Does the book recommend taking anything specific before starting a prolonged fast?
Yeah, they have a whole chapter on pre-fasting supplements.
Really?
Are they necessary?
Well, they're not absolutely essential, but they can definitely help prepare your body.
Okay, so like an extra boost.
Exactly. Think of them as tools to optimize your experience and potentially enhance the benefits.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
hmm
So what are the key supplements to consider?
One of the most important ones is a good quality multivitamin. A multivitamin. But why is that so important before a fast?
Even if you eat a healthy diet, it can be tough to get all the nutrients you need from food alone.
Right, I get that.
And during a fast, your body is relying on its reserves, so taking a multivitamin beforehand is like a safety net.
Makes sense, like making sure my body has those essential building blocks.
Exactly. Another important one is omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA.
We talked about those before, the anti-inflammatory benefits.
Right, and when you start fasting, there can be a temporary increase in inflammation as your body adjusts.
So the omega-3s help counter that.
Yep, they help make the transition smoother, and they're great for your heart and brain too.
Okay, so multivitamins and omega-3s, got it. Anything else?
Magnesium is another crucial one. It's involved in so many processes in your body.
Like what?
Muscle function, nerve function, energy production, blood sugar control.
Wow, that's a lot.
Right. And since you might experience muscle fatigue or cramps during a fast, magnesium can really help.
Okay, so it's like a muscle supporter.
Exactly. And it can also help you sleep better, which is important before a fast.
Because a well-rested body can handle the challenges better.
Exactly. What about probiotics? Have you ever taken those?
Yeah, I've heard they're good for gut health.
They are. And fasting can actually change the balance of bacteria in your gut.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so taking probiotics before the fast can help keep your gut healthy and might even reduce any digestive discomfort.
Okay, so it's like giving my gut bacteria some extra support.
Exactly. Now, those are the main ones, but there are a few other optional supplements.
Oh, like what?
One is branched-chain amino acids, or BCAAs.
I've heard of those, but mostly for muscle building. What do they do for fasting?
Well, they're essential amino acids, meaning your body can't make them on its own.
Okay.
And they're really important for muscle growth and repair.
So taking BCAAs helps protect my muscles during a fast.
Exactly. It's like an extra layer of protection for those hard-earned muscles.
Okay, I like that. Any other optional supplements?
The book also mentions adaptogenic herbs.
Adaptogenic herbs.
They're basically herbs that help your body deal with stress.
Stress. But how do they help with fasting?
Well, fasting can be stressful on your body, right? Adaptogens help your body adapt to that stress more easily.
So they're like stress relievers for my body.
Exactly. Two popular ones are ashwagandha and rhodiola rosea.
I've heard of ashwagandha. It's supposed to be good for anxiety, right?
Yes, and rhodiola is known for boosting energy and mood and even improving mental clarity.
Which honestly sounds really helpful during a fast.
Right. It can be tough to focus when you're fasting, so rhodiola can help with that.
Wow, so many options. How do I know which supplements are right for me?
The book stresses that it's all about personalized supplementation. Consider your goals, your diet, any health conditions you have.
So it's not one size fits all. It's about finding what works best for me.
Exactly. And of course, talk to your doctor before starting any new supplements, especially if you're on medication.
Always good advice. This has been so helpful. I never realized there was so much to think about with pre-fasting supplements.
It's all about giving your body the best possible support to thrive during the fast.
Okay, so I've prepped my body, got my pre-fast meal and supplements ready. I'm mentally prepared, I'm hydrated, I'm ready to actually start fasting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you ready to hear what happens in your body hour by hour during a 72-hour fast?
Yes. Tell me everything.
Okay, so those first 12 hours, it's all about transitioning from a fed state to a fasted state.
Meaning?
Your body's still digesting that last meal, blood sugar and insulin levels are up.
So it's like I'm still running on those carbs.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But as those hours go by, your blood sugar starts to drop.
Because my body's using up that available glucose.
Yep. And that's when things start to shift.
Yeah.
Around the 12 to 18-hour mark, your body starts making glucose from other sources, like amino acids.
It's getting resourceful.
Exactly. And then As those glycogen stores get even lower, your body's like, all right, time to tap into that fat.
And that's where the ketones kick in, right?
You got it. Around 18 to 24 hours in, your liver starts converting those fatty acids into ketones.
So my body's switching over to those ketones as fuel.
Yep. And as you keep fasting, ketone production increases, and you enter a state called ketosis.
Ketosis, right, where fat is the primary fuel source.
Exactly. You're officially a fat-burning machine.
That is so cool. So what else is happening at this point, besides the fuel switch?
Well, this metabolic shift, it triggers all sorts of cool things at the cellular level.
Like what?
One is that increase in autophagy we talked about earlier.
That cellular cleanup process, right?
Yep. Your body's getting rid of all the junk, making room for new, healthy cells.
So it's like my body is taking this opportunity to do a deep clean, get rid of all that clutter.
Exactly. It's a chance for your body to reset and renew itself.
We also talked about how prolonged fasting affects hormone levels. What's going on with those during the 72-hour fast?
Remember those hormonal shifts we talked about? Insulin goes down, glucagon, growth hormone, cortisol, they all go up.
Right, right. And those help with fat breakdown, preserving muscle mass.
Yep, it's like a perfectly timed dance of hormones, each one playing its part to keep your body running smoothly.
So my body is adapting, adjusting to this new way of functioning.
It's a beautiful example of your body's adaptability and resilience.
Okay, so it's not just about those immediate effects, like feeling less hungry.
It's about triggering those deeper changes that can have lasting benefits.
Right. I'm definitely starting to understand the power of this practice, but let's talk about the mental and emotional side of things for a bit. What are some of the challenges I might face during a prolonged fast?
Fasting can be tough mentally and emotionally, there's no denying that.
So what are some things I should be prepared for?
Well, as we've mentioned, hunger pangs are a common challenge, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, those can be pretty intense. So what are some good strategies for dealing with them, making it more manageable?
Staying hydrated is huge. Sometimes your body just mixes up thirst and hunger.
So make sure I'm drinking enough water throughout the fast.
Exactly. And herbal teas can be helpful too.
Which ones are good for managing hunger? You keep mentioning them.
Peppermint or ginger tea, those can soothe your stomach and help with those hunger pangs.
Got it. And they provide that little bit of comfort and ritual, which can be nice.
Distraction is another great tool. When you're fixated on food, do something to take your mind off it.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Read a book, go for a walk, listen to music, anything that gets your mind off eating.
Right. Shifting my focus away from those physical sensations.
Exactly. And some people find mindfulness practices really helpful too. Things like meditation or deep breathing.
I can see how those would help. Calming the mind, being more present.
It's about observing those feelings of hunger without getting overwhelmed by them.
Right. It's not about ignoring them. It's about acknowledging them and letting them pass.
Exactly. And as you practice mindfulness, those hunger pangs might even become less intense.
Interesting. Okay, so hydration, distraction, mindfulness, those are good for hunger. What about fatigue? Those energy dips can be rough.
Rest is super important. Your body's working hard, even though you're not eating.
So listening to my body and taking breaks when I need them?
Absolutely. And it's not just about sleep. It's about incorporating moments of relaxation into your day.
Taking some deep breaths, stretching, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Even a few minutes can make a difference.
Yeah.
And don't forget about those light activities we talked about.
Oh, right, like walking and yoga.
They might seem counterintuitive, but they can actually boost your energy levels.
Because they get the blood flowing.
Right, and release endorphins, which make you feel good. So finding that balance between rest and movement is key.
Got it. Now, what about social situations? Food is such a big part of socializing. How do I deal with that while fasting?
Yeah, that can be tricky. The best thing is to be upfront with your loved ones about your fasting plans.
So just tell them what I'm doing.
Exactly. Let them know why you're fasting, how long you're doing it. That way they understand.
Right, so I'm not constantly having to explain myself or turn down food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you're not comfortable sharing all the details, just say you're not hungry or that you've already eaten.
Simple enough. And if I know it's going to be a food-focused gathering, maybe suggest something else to do.
Yeah, like going for a walk, seeing a movie, something that doesn't revolve around food.
So it's about being proactive and making choices that align with my goals.
It's your journey, your body, your choice.
I love that. Okay, but what about cravings? Those can be so hard to resist, especially for those not so healthy foods.
Cravings are definitely a common challenge.
Yeah.
And they can be tricky because they're not always just about physical hunger.
Meaning?
Sometimes they're driven by emotions, habits, things like that.
So if I'm stressed and always reach for chocolate, I might crave it during a fast, even if I'm not physically hungry.
Exactly. It's about recognizing those triggers and finding healthy ways to manage them.
So if I know stress is a trigger, maybe I should focus on stress-reducing activities.
That's a great idea. And if certain places trigger cravings, like walking past your favorite bakery,
Avoid those places.
exactly. It's all about being mindful and making choices that support your goals. And sometimes just acknowledging the craving and letting it pass is enough.
So not trying to fight it or suppress it, just letting it run its course.
And if that doesn't work, try finding a healthy substitute. If you're craving something sweet, have a piece of fruit instead of candy.
Okay, so it's about finding ways to satisfy those cravings without breaking the fast.
Exactly. Now, what about those other physical discomforts that can pop up, like headaches or dizziness?
Yeah, those can be really annoying and make it harder to stick with the fast.
Those are usually related to, you guessed it, dehydration or electrolyte imbalances.
Those electrolytes again, they seem to be important for everything.
They are, so drink plenty of water. Make sure you're replenishing those electrolytes.
Okay, will do. What about headaches specifically? Any tips for those?
Rest can help a lot, and try to avoid things that might trigger them.
Like stress, bright lights, loud noises.
Exactly. Sometimes just lying down in a quiet room can do wonders.
That's true. And dizziness. What if I get dizzy during a fast?
Make sure you're standing up slowly, avoid sudden movements, and check those electrolyte levels again.
Got it. Okay, so we've covered the physical stuff, but what about the mental and emotional challenges? We talked about those mood swings, energy dips. How do we deal with those?
The biggest thing is to go into the fast with realistic expectations. You're probably going to experience some of those things, especially in the beginning.
So don't expect to feel amazing the whole time.
It's a process. Your body is adjusting. But knowing that those challenges are usually temporary can help.
Okay, that makes sense. But what can I do to actually manage those ups and downs?
Mindfulness practices are great for this. Things like meditation and deep breathing.
I can see how those would be helpful, calming the mind, being more present.
Exactly. It helps you become more aware of your emotions and learn to observe them without judgment.
So I can respond to those emotions instead of just reacting to them.
And sometimes, just acknowledging how you're feeling and letting yourself feel it can be enough to make it pass.
It's like riding the wave of those emotions, knowing that they'll eventually subside.
Exactly. And self-care is crucial. Make sure you're resting, staying hydrated, doing things you enjoy.
So it's not just about depriving myself, it's about taking care of myself in other ways.
Exactly. And if those mental and emotional challenges are really tough, don't hesitate to reach out for professional help.
That's good to know.
Hmm.
Okay, so mindfulness, self-care, and I know I can reach out for support if I need it. But what about those moments where I just want to give up? How do I stay motivated and committed to my fasting goals?
When those moments hit, the best thing is to reconnect with your why. Why are you doing this? What are you hoping to achieve?
So remind myself of those bigger goals, whether it's better health, more energy, or just pushing my limits.
Exactly. And celebrate those small wins along the way. If you get through a tough day, acknowledge that success.
That's a good point. It's about recognizing those small victories that add up to the bigger picture.
And don't underestimate the power of community. Find people who support your journey, whether it's friends, family, or online groups.
So I'm not in this alone. There are people who understand and can encourage me.
Exactly. Prolonged fasting can be a challenge, but it can also be incredibly rewarding. And having the right tools, strategies, and support makes all the difference.
This has been so helpful. Thank you for breaking down those challenges and giving me tools to deal with them.
You're welcome. It's all about empowering yourself to create a positive and successful fasting experience.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential benefits of prolonged fasting, but we need to be real about the downsides too. We've mentioned a few, but let's make sure we cover them thoroughly. What are some things I need to be aware of before I start a prolonged fast?
It's definitely important to understand the risks involved. And one of the big ones is nutrient deficiencies.
Right, because even though our bodies are amazing, they still need those vitamins and minerals.
Exactly. And even though your body can tap into its reserves during a fast, prolonged periods without food, can lead to imbalances.
That's why that pre- and post-fast nutrition is so important, right?
Exactly. It's not just about the fasting period itself. It's about what you do before and after to make sure you're getting those nutrients.
Okay, nutrient deficiencies, got it. What else?
Another one, and we've talked about this a lot already, is electrolyte imbalances. Those are crucial during a fast.
Because we lose them when we don't eat, right?
Exactly. And those imbalances can lead to all sorts of unpleasant symptoms.
Like muscle cramps, dizziness, fatigue, headaches.
Yep. So making sure you're replenishing those electrolytes is essential.
Okay, I'm definitely getting that message. What about muscle loss? I've heard that's a risk with prolonged fasting.
Your body does prioritize preserving muscle, but prolonged fasting can lead to some breakdown if you're not careful.
So it's not a guarantee, but it's something to be mindful of.
Exactly. And that's why protein intake and exercise, even light activity, are so important.
Right, so it's about taking steps to minimize that risk.
It's about using this tool wisely and strategically. Okay, now this is a big one. What happens after the fast is over? Is there a chance I'll gain all the weight back?
Yeah, that's a worry. I don't want to go through all this just to end up back where I started.
It's a valid concern. And while you might regain some weight as your body replenishes its fluids and glycogen stores, there are ways to minimize that.
Okay, tell me everything.
The most important thing is to not go back to your old eating habits.
So no more junk food binges.
Exactly. If you go back to eating processed foods, sugary drinks, large portions, you're likely to gain the weight back.
So it's about using the fast as a jumping off point to create healthier habits.
Exactly. Focus on those nutrient-dense whole foods we've been talking about. Fruits, veggies, lean proteins, healthy fats.
It's about making those changes last, not just during the fast, but afterward too.
And don't forget about exercise. That's key for maintaining those results.
Right, because it helps with metabolism, building muscle, all of that.
Exactly. It's about creating this lifestyle that supports your goals.
So it's not just about the fast, it's about everything that comes before and after.
And remember, weight loss isn't the only benefit. We've talked about all those other improvements, metabolic health, cellular function.
Right, all those things that go beyond just the number on the scale.
So even if you do regain a few pounds, you're still getting those other benefits.
Okay, that makes me feel better. It's about those long-term gains, not just the short-term fluctuations.
Exactly. Now, let's be honest, prolonged fasting isn't for everyone. Are there certain people who shouldn't do it at all?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm guessing pregnant or breastfeeding women are on that list.
Absolutely. Their bodies have different needs. They need those extra nutrients for the baby.
So fasting could actually be harmful in those cases.
Yes, it's best to focus on a balanced, nutrient-rich diet during those times.
Makes sense. What about other groups?
People with eating disorders should avoid prolonged fasting too.
Why is that?
Fasting can trigger unhealthy eating patterns and obsessions with food and weight.
So it's important for them to focus on recovery, not restriction.
Exactly. And people with diabetes need to be extra careful too.
Because fasting affects blood sugar levels, right?
Yep, which can be dangerous for someone with diabetes, especially if they're on medication.
So if I have diabetes, I definitely need to talk to my doctor before even considering a prolonged fast.
Absolutely. They can help you figure out if it's safe and how to manage your blood sugar during the fast.
What about medications in general? Does fasting affect how those work?
Yes, it can affect how your body absorbs and uses certain medications.
So again, it's important to talk to my doctor first.
They can adjust your dosage or timing if needed.
Okay, I'm getting the picture. Prolonged fasting is not something to mess around with without professional guidance.
It's a powerful tool. But like any tool, you need to know how to use it safely.
And prioritize my health above all else.
Exactly.
This has been incredibly informative. I feel like I have a much better understanding of all the aspects of prolonged fasting, the good and the bad.
That's great to hear.
But I'm curious about one more thing. How does this all affect lifespan? Can fasting actually help you live longer?
That's a fascinating question. And the book does delve into that, although most of the evidence is from animal studies.
So we need more research on humans, but what does the current research suggest?
It suggests that prolonged fasting might promote longevity in a few ways. One is through its impact on cellular processes.
Like autophagy.
Exactly. Autophagy helps remove damaged parts of cells, which can contribute to aging.
So it's like a cleanup crew for our cells.
Exactly. And by promoting autophagy, prolonged fasting might slow down that aging process.
Keep our cells functioning better for longer.
That's the idea. The book also mentions that prolonged fasting reduces oxidative stress.
Remind me what oxidative stress is again.
It's basically an imbalance in your body that can damage cells and contribute to aging.
Right, got it.
Well, prolonged fasting seems to boost your body's defenses against that oxidative stress.
So it's like protecting my cells from damage.
Exactly. Like giving them a shield.
Fascinating. So it could potentially help me live longer by keeping my cells healthy and protected.
It's a possibility, but more research is needed to confirm that in humans, The book also highlights the link between prolonged fasting and metabolic health, which can play a role in longevity too.
Right, we talked about how fasting improves insulin sensitivity, blood sugar levels, all of that.
And those improvements can lower your risk of chronic diseases, which are big contributors to aging.
So by improving my metabolic health, I might indirectly increase my lifespan.
Exactly. It's a complex interplay of factors, but the research is pointing in that direction.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued by this whole longevity aspect, but let's shift gears for a moment. I want to talk about the connection between prolonged fasting and the ketogenic diet. I hear those terms together all the time. Are they the same thing?
That's a great question. They do have some similarities, but they're not the same.
So, what are the key differences?
The keto diet, it's all about drastically reducing carbs and increasing fat intake.
Right, so your body starts burning fat for fuel.
Exactly. It forces your body into a state of ketosis, similar to what happens during prolonged fasting.
So, they both lead to ketosis, but in different ways.
Right. One big difference is that with keto, you're still eating, just a very specific type of diet.
Whereas with prolonged fasting, you're abstaining from food altogether for a period of time.
Exactly. Another difference is that keto often involves taking exogenous ketones, which are supplements.
So, you're getting those ketones from an external source.
While with prolonged fasting, your body makes its own ketones naturally.
Okay, so both lead to ketosis, but through different mechanisms.
Right. And they both have some similar potential benefits, but it's important to choose the approach that's right for you.
And of course, talk to your doctor before making any big dietary changes.
Always good advice.
Okay, so now I understand the difference between those two, but I want to go back to cognitive function for a second.
Mm.
You said that prolonged fasting could boost brain power. How does that actually work?
There's this protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
BDNF.
Okay, it's basically like a growth hormone for your brain. It helps your brain cells grow and stay healthy.
So it's important for keeping my brain sharp.
Exactly. And studies have shown that prolonged fasting can increase BDNF levels.
Really? How does that happen?
It seems to be related to that metabolic shift we talked about. When your body starts using ketones for fuel, it triggers a chain reaction that leads to more BDNF production.
So those ketones are telling my brain to make more BDNF.
That's the idea. And higher BDNF levels have been linked to better memory, learning, focus, all sorts of good stuff.
Wow, so it's like giving my brain an upgrade.
It really is. The book mentions studies where prolonged fasting improved memory in older adults and even enhanced learning and memory in mice.
So there's definitely some promising evidence, even though we need more research.
It's an exciting area of research, and it suggests that fasting could be a key to keeping our brains healthy as we age.
Okay, so we've got potential lifespan extension, brain power boost. This is incredible. What about the immune system? Does prolonged fasting affect that too?
That's another area where the research is really fascinating. The immune system is our defense against all those nasty bugs and diseases.
Right, and it's such a complex system.
It is, and it's influenced by so many factors like what we eat, our lifestyle, and even, as we're finding out, our fasting practices.
So does the book talk about how prolonged fasting affects our immune system?
It does, and the research is pretty new, but there are some really interesting findings suggesting that prolonged fasting could actually have some immune boosting effects.
Immune boosting. That's really interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, one of the ways it seems to work is through its impact on stem cells, those cells that can turn into all sorts of different cells in our bodies.
Right, like those blank slate cells that can become anything?
Exactly. And that includes immune cells, the ones that are fighting off infections and keeping us healthy.
Okay, so they're like the building blocks for a strong immune system.
Exactly. And prolonged fasting, it seems to stimulate the production of new stem cells.
So it's kind of like replenishing our supply of those important immune cells, giving our immune system a boost.
Exactly. It's like giving your immune system a fresh batch of troops ready to fight off any invaders.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. So it's like a reboot for the immune system, helping it stay strong and resilient.
Exactly. And remember how we talked about inflammation and how chronic inflammation can actually suppress the immune system? Well, prolonged fasting has been shown to reduce those inflammatory markers in the body. So it's creating a more favorable environment for the immune system to thrive.
So it's like a two-pronged attack, boosting the good stuff and reducing the bad stuff. That's incredible.
It's like creating this powerful synergy within your body, optimizing those natural healing and defense mechanisms.
Wow. I am convinced prolonged fasting isn't just about weight loss or longevity. It really seems like it's about improving our overall well-being in a really holistic way.
Exactly. It's about tapping into your body's innate ability to heal and thrive.
Well, before we wrap up this deep dive into prolonged fasting, I want to touch on something that I've always found fascinating, and that's the spiritual or mindful aspect of fasting.
Yeah, fasting has been a part of spiritual and religious traditions for centuries, right?
Right, it's this ancient practice that's been around for a really long time. And while the book we're looking at today focuses more on the science, it does touch on this historical and spiritual context, which I think is important.
Definitely. Fasting, it's been used as a way to connect with something bigger than ourselves, to develop self-discipline, and to enhance that spiritual awareness.
Yeah.
It really transcends individual cultures and religions.
And even outside of formal religious practices, a lot of people find that fasting can be a deeply introspective and transformative experience.
Absolutely. When you're abstaining from food, it's like you're stripping away a layer of distraction and really allowing yourself to tune in to your body's signals, your inner landscape.
It's like creating that space for deeper self-awareness and connection to something beyond just the physical.
Right. And for some people, this can lead to a sense of clarity, a sense of purpose, even a spiritual awakening.
The book mentions that fasting can be a really powerful tool for cultivating self-discipline and resilience, which I find really interesting.
Absolutely. When you overcome the challenges of fasting, you're basically proving to yourself that you have the strength and the willpower to achieve things that are difficult. And that sense of accomplishment can spill over into other areas of your life too.
It's like a mental and emotional workout, building those inner muscles that we need to face challenges in all aspects of our lives.
Exactly. And while the book doesn't go too deep into the spiritual side of fasting, I think it's important to remember that this practice can be much more than just a dietary change. It can be a journey of self-discovery and transformation.
Well, I think we've covered so much ground today in our deep dive into prolonged fasting. We've explored the history, the science behind it, those practical tips, the potential benefits, the challenges, and even that spiritual dimension.
It's been a truly fascinating journey, and I hope our listeners have gained a better understanding of how prolonged fasting might fit into a modern lifestyle.
I know I have. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts. What are some of the key takeaways you're leaving with?
Well, one thing that really stands out to me is that prolonged fasting, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's a very individual practice. It requires a lot of careful consideration, preparation, and monitoring.
Right, it's not something to just jump into lightly.
Why not? It's not a magic bullet. It's a tool.
Hmm.
And like any tool, you have to know how to use it properly and safely.
Respecting our bodies and listening to what they're telling us.
Exactly. And another takeaway for me is that prolonged fasting is so much more than just a strategy for weight loss. It can have these profound effects on our physical, mental, and even spiritual well-being.
I couldn't agree more. It's really about optimizing our health on all these different levels, tapping into our body's amazing ability to heal and renew itself.
And it's incredible to think that this ancient practice, it's actually backed by modern science.
It really speaks to the wisdom of those who came before us and the power of the human body.
Well said.
Well, thank you for joining me on this deep dive into prolonged fasting. I hope everyone listening has learned something new and feels inspired to explore this fascinating practice further.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about prolonged fasting, the better you can make informed decisions about whether it's right for you and how to do it safely and effectively.
That's a great reminder. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into a fascinating topic.